Good morning, good morning, good morning. Well, it's afternoon. I messed that all up. It's afternoon. Um, so let's take a pause for a little bit while we let the people come in. So just go ahead and tap in to what we're about to talk about because this is definitely um, part two. So we'll wait until everybody get in and then we'll go with part two. All right, so it's doing something. All right, so come on in. Come on in the room. And if you're watching in the state of Texas, just put down the city that you're viewing it from. If you're viewing outside the state of Texas, put the city and state that you're viewing from. So we're going to be talking about process and progress. So if you can hear me from the sound of my voice, just want to make sure that the mic sounds nice. Check one, just playing. If you can hear me, just go ahead and put that you can hear me inside the chat, or put the number one that you can hear me inside the chat before we jump into what we're going to be doing today. Um, Today has been very interesting already, nonetheless. Good morning, good afternoon, Ms. Zula. I see you watching. Ms. Zula, if you can hear me, go ahead and put the number one inside the chat. Go ahead and put number one inside the chat just so I know that you can hear me. We're going to be talking about process and progress. We're going to be talking about process and progress today. Tuning in from San Antonio. Okay. Long Star Samoan. Ms. Zula, good afternoon. I guess you can hear me. I see you, Miss Tina, who said that you can hear me today. I see the number one, Ms. Zula. So we had to switch it up a little bit because I'm not going to lie, I was double tapped. So two things cannot happen at the same time. I had to be in one meeting at 9 o'clock and I was supposed to be on the radio at 9 o'clock. So I was like, okay, let's set my priorities. Which one is going to create a much more beneficial outcome for the community? Or which one am I going to be dropping jewels? I said, you know what? I have the opportunity to switch the platforms and put it in the podcast perspective. Trust me, there was a lot going on. It would look a whole lot better than this right now. For those that have seen me podcasts in the past, it will look a lot better. Like I don't even have my background. I don't have any of that stuff going on and going down. So, hey, good afternoon. How you doing, Miss AR? I've been seeing you in person lately, so I definitely appreciate just you from coming from Temple and just communicating as a family, as one. And again, I thank everybody for being in this digital world. All right. So we talked about this past time. We talked about process and progress. So I was trying to figure out where I was in my mind, in my space to where what does part two look like? And I begin to analyze like how do we see progress and how do we see the word process? So any and everything that resonates with you, everyone has an opportunity to either put the number one or you can go inside your emojis and find a green heart. Excuse me, and you put the green heart inside for those things that resonate with you as well. Um, so let's go into a little bit of back information. So we talked about the definition of the word process is a series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve a particular end. That's process. And when we talk about progress, by definition, it says forward or onward uh, movement towards a destination. Now, both things, as we talked about this past Monday, was both of them start the same way. You got PRO for process, and you got PRO for progress. So go ahead and put the word process inside the chat. PRO, process. Go ahead and put the word process inside the chat. So now, one of the things that I have began to learn as I was trying to figure out, like, what am I going to say? What information am I going to provide? What jewels am I going to attach to the information? And it just came out this way. So um, let's look at it this way. Process is a series of actions. That's by definition. But process is also a series of thought, right? Now think about it. If process is a series of actions and also process is also a series of thought. And what are you talking about, Mr. Russell? When you look at when you look at the design of a process, it is a series of thought. Why? Because you're talking about, or you're thinking about, or you're writing down, these are the things that I need to do in order for me to accomplish this. So because of the process is a series of actions, process is also a series of thought. Just like when you are in your process, you say, I'm in my head right now, I'm in my process. Let me take a break. Let me sit down. Let me woosah. Let me write this down and figure this out. Now, when you're writing things down and you're figuring that particular thing out, you're inside of your thoughts. Because when you're inside of your thoughts, you have to take a moment, and there is nothing wrong with taking a moment when you are in your process. Because process is the seed that's planted inside the ground. That is the process. And why do I say that? Because there will be no tree if it never had the process of going inside of the ground. You have to think about it from that perspective. Because if you're going to start a business, or if you're going to write a paper, if you're going to draw this particular thing, or you going to, market research or whatever, you have to think about what are you going to do and what do you strive to accomplish. So it is a compound series of thoughts. So when you say this did not happen, or this is not happening for me, ask yourself, what was your thought process when you started? And where is your thought process right now? Because as you know, fear is not real until you make it real, right? You understand that? Fear is not real until you give it life. Fear is not real until you have a compounding processes of thoughts, which then translate and transfer into emotions. And that thing that transfer into emotions is translated as fear. I am afraid of starting this business. So I am afraid of stepping out on faith, or I am afraid of that this is not going to work. I am afraid. And the reason why you say that you're afraid of that particular thing, or this is not working out for you, because you have a compound interest of those thoughts that is compacting on top of everything that you said won't happen, or everything that you said is not happening. It is not happening because you haven't changed your perspective in how you see it. That's where those small victories come from. Those small victories allow you to know that the process that you're going through is actually getting you to your end goal a lot close, and you're a lot closer than what you thought when you started. And I want you to really understand that process has time attached to it, because the tree, we'll talk oak tree, right? We'll talk oak tree. Inside of every acorn is an oak tree. The oak tree would not be the oak tree if it was not for the acorn. The oak tree would not be the oak tree if it was not for the individual who put it into the ground. We're just talking about farmers, planters, whatever. Or if the acorn did not go into the dark place. Right? We're going to talk about the dark place. If the acorn did not go into the dark place, right? The dark place. We're going to call it the dark place because when you plant the seed inside of the ground, there isn't light down there. There is a dark place. Just like when you're in your head. I'm in my head. I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel because you're in that dark place. You're in that dark place to where your thoughts becomes a victim of your thinking. I like that. Your dark place becomes the victim to the way that you're thinking. So when you're in that dark place, you're really planted, right? You're planted. And as you're planted inside of your garden or as you're planted inside of those thoughts that you have, it has to go through a process before the tree ever breaks ground to be seen and to be visible, to say that the process was done properly in the way that it was supposed to go. Because without it, it will never be the oak tree. The time that it takes for you to write it down, take the time to write it down. The time that it takes for you to figure out what type of book you're going to write, take the time to figure that out. The time that it's going to take for you to flush it out of your mind in order for you to get rid of the writer's block, take the time to write it down and to figure it out. Because that is a part of what? That is a part of the process, the compound interest of thought. That is a process. Take the time and be proactive in the process. Just like when they say faith without works is dead, that means just because you feel that it's going to work, that does not mean that the work is no longer voided. That means you still have work to do. Just because you write the book and just because the book is printed out, that does not mean that everyone is going to know where to go to buy your book. That does not mean that everyone is going to know what www wherever it is.com for them to find your book. That means you had the faith to write the book, but do you have the work that is going to take you to get your book noticeable? Why? Because you planted the seed. The oak tree is not an oak tree until it what? Until it becomes visible. Your book is not a book until what? Until it becomes visible. Because before that, it is just a great idea that you have. It is just a great concept that you have. It is a great vision that you have. It is a great dream that you have. But until it becomes the tangible, physical manifestation that I can pick this up and I can open these pages and to say that this is a book, it is not a book until you manifest it. It is not an oak tree until it is manifested. Just like you understand that this is a apple tree when you see the fruit that it bears. So there is a process that it takes before the fruit becomes bearable, where I can see it. I know that that is a orange tree. When I see a series of orange trees, I know that that is a orange grove. When I see the series of apple trees, I know that is a orchard of apples. That means there are success rates that let you know that there are more than one tree because there has been more than one process that person had to go through or to go to in order for that tree to become a orchard. So something that came to me, this was Sunday, and I'm gonna be transparent because it hit me so hard, because a lot of us can be guilty of it. So we talked about process and progress, but now I want you to look at how things can be for certain people, and that is persona and performance. Persona and performance. Because when you in your process thinking you're getting things done, you may start the persona of working. That means, oh, you're doing busy work and you really think you're going through the process, but you're not. You're making everybody believe that what you're doing is going to work and going to happen and all this other stuff, like you got it all together. You're fitting the busy work and you're telling yourself that it's processed. It's not. That's like somebody saying, oh, let me pray about it, but you still got your hand on it. So you really haven't let go. So where do you feel that it's going to go because you haven't let go of it yet in order for it to take on its natural process? You're living a persona because you have yet to go through the process. And the persona of what you're going through is going to become a compound series of thoughts, because within your persona you can find fear. Within your persona you can find doubt. Within your persona you can find the lie. Within your persona you can find the busy work, but you're not really going through the process at all. So don't let the persona of what you consider as busy work confuse you with your trust of the process. Now, I'm going to speak on some of the things that I wrote down that I'm going to go ahead and get off. It says, do not let the persona of what you consider as busy work confuse you with your trust of the process. Then the next thing I wrote down, which is kind of transitioning into performance, because we talked about process and we communicated about progress. Don't you know that your performance is the outcome of the process? I'm going to say that again. The performance will show in your progress. It's just like somebody saying, I'm going to lose 5 pounds. The persona of this individual saying that I'm going to lose 5 pounds is, girl, I'm going to the gym, or hey, man, I'm about to go work out, or I'm going to go run, or I started this diet. You started the persona of what you think other people need to hear in order for you to feel as if what you're saying is true, but you have created yourself the persona of an individual that actually wants to accomplish the end goal. But your performance is going to show and prove within itself, because you say you want to lose 5, but you gain 7. You say you want to lose 5, but you gain 10. Your performance is going to show proof that your process was not a process, because you've created the persona of you going and working out. You created the persona of you starting that business, because you still have yet to understand that the process was given to you. I don't care how many restaurants is on Restaurant Row. When you go out to eat, you see all these restaurants. Every last one of them have their very own process in what they cook. Every last one of them has their very own process in what they serve. Every last one of them have their very own process of their systems. Every last one of them have their very own process with the ingredients that they put inside. And it is not a persona, because the performance of the person who is taking your order is the proof that they understand the process of not just customer service, but they understand the process of the customer acquisition. How are you receiving your client or your customer when they come into your store? How are you receiving your client or your customer when they come and they approach you and they're speaking to you about what they want from your business? Don't you know that your performance will show and will dictate how the next customer may or may not come to you, just because the experience of that person who just left you? Don't have the persona of you're this when you're really not that. That's persona. Again, we're rooting this on the ground and foundation of process and progress. Because your performance will show what? My performance will show that my progress is grounded on what I put into what I'm doing. The next thing I have is your performance will be on full display with your actions and your body of work. Your performance will be on full display with your actions and your body of work. Because again, we're going into the analogy of the apple tree or the orange tree. Your performance will be on full display with your body of work. Because if you're planting this seed and it actually shows itself to be an apple tree, you can't tell me that you're going to make orange juice out of this particular tree that only bears apples. You can't make the orange juice. So if you're calling yourself, I am a president of orange, and I make the best oranges in North America. But everything you've been planning under the persona of your planting seeds, and I'm sowing seeds and I'm going through the process, I'm doing this, but everything that comes up is a bunch of apple trees. So you cannot possibly have the body of work that's going to show proof of what you say that you are, or that's going to show proof that you actually execute what you say that you're going to execute. Why? Because your body of work is going to show true that the persona of you making the best apples, or making, as I was, that you making the best orange juice on this side of Florida, to be false. So the next thing I wrote down was, how consistent are you within your process? That's stepping on toes. How consistent are you within your process? Are you getting up when you say you're going to get up? Are you doing the research when you say you're going to do the research? Are you actually meeting people that you know you need to meet because you know you need to meet them? Or have you allowed your fear to take you away from the path that you're supposed to be going on when it comes to, this is where I'm going to go, and I know this is how I'm going to have to go to get to that end state. So I'm going to do what is required of me to do, and I'm going to make it happen. Or are you the one that is in your way? That's your question. Are you consistent with your process? The next thing I wrote down is, you can belong. Oh man, I love this. And I want you to take this down and I want you to understand it. Go ahead and put it inside the chat right now. Belong and believe. Put down the word belong and put in the chat the word believe. For everyone that's watching this, on the sound of my voice that's watching this live, put down the word belong and put down the word believe. Because if you don't, you're going to miss it. If you do not, you're going to miss it. Belong and believe. Not believe, belief. Belong, I'm sorry. Belong and believe. Sorry, you're correct. Belong and believe. So within a confine of your process, you're going to do things that, or you're going to understand that if I'm going to make it to this point, then there are some things that I know that I need to do that's going to get me to this place. But sometimes we're not there, or we don't get to that place because we don't feel we belong there. Because we don't feel we belong there, so therefore we're going to squash and smash our very own belief system that we can actually get to this point. Belong and believe. Don't you know when you start to do the true thing that you know that you are, so if you start doing the true thing that you know that it's going to take for you to get there, don't you know you're going to feel like you belong there? Because now you're beginning to change your belief system. Because a belief system is a conceptual thing that you have. But when you believe that you're supposed to be there, you're going to start to do the things that allows you to belong on that side. I want to make an extra 20,000 this year. Whatever, I'm just throwing stuff. I want to make an extra 20,000 this year. So you're going to start to do the things that require you to actually belong there. I'm going to start saving more, or I'm going to be more financially a much better steward of the things that I know I tangibly, physically have. So your process that you're going to do actually going to show that you belong to achieve that particular goal. That's belong and believe. And you can belong before you believe. You can belong before you believe because it's how you see it. It's your perception of it. It's your perception of your end goal. So you can actually belong before you believe, because a lot of times we tear our very own belief system down because we don't feel that we believe that we can accomplish that thing. We believe that we can finish the book. We believe that the business that you started is going to be successful. So your best practices are not on full display. So therefore, you are not belonging because you're not doing the very thing that you know that you need to do. Some call it fake it till you make it, right? Belong before you believe, or fake it till I make it. And if in 2025 you still feel that you need to fake it before you make it, trust and believe your belief system of it is shaky because you don't even see that you belong there. I don't want to fake anything if I don't believe I'm gonna make it. I'm not going to do it. It requires you to have a different type of belief system to know that you belong to or you belong at the destination before you even get there. There is a language translation that we have to go through when we still see it as fake it till you make it. And that transition that we go through, we would never go through it because we're not going through that due process. We would find the inadequacies of the due process. So I'm gonna break something down, and I did some research on it. So there are two types of due process, and y'all can look it up too, but I kind of switched it up a little bit. So there are two types of due process, and they're both based on foundational principles. Now, you can take these principles and tailor it to what you're doing, and you can take these principles and tailor it to what you want to do. So the foundational principles of due process, it says due process is a fundamental principle. I'm going to read it as it is, and then I'm going to convert it into the message. Due process is a fundamental principle of justice that requires the government to act fairly and impartially, following establishing legal goals and procedures. Let's switch this for you. Due process is a fundamental principles that require you to act fairly and impartially following the establishments of what you said you're going to do. So it's the fundamental process that you can say that you're going to do. Why? Because you belong there before you believe that you can get there. I can see it before I get to the destination. That's just like, remember back in the day, some of us is old enough to remember sitting there with a big map book before there was a GPS. You can see yourself in North Carolina before you get there. Why? Because you're looking at the due process of following the map to get you from where you are to where you are striving or where you are about to go. That is a due process. You have to figure out what's the highway, what's the byway. You can say, okay, I'm going to drive from here and I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to take a break. That is due process. Due process. And the two main types of due process, right? Procedural due process and substantive due process. So now let's talk about procedural due process. Procedural, I'm gonna read it and then I'm gonna twist it. Procedural due process is this aspect focuses on the fairness of the procedures used by the government to deprive someone of their rights. How many of you actually deprived yourself of your blessing because you denied yourself of due process? So therefore, that thing that you desire for yourself never actually really happened because you have taken yourself out of belonging there. So you didn't believe that you can get there. Oh man, procedural that mean everyone has to go through a procedure in order for them to what? To get to where they ultimately want to go to. Everybody believe that they can get there. And the other part is due process. And this says this aspect limits the government's ability to enact laws or regulations that infringe upon fundamental rights, ensuring that such laws are not arbitrary or unreasonable. Let's flip it for you. This aspect limits you from actually this substantive process limits the this aspect limits your ability to enact on the things or in the direction that you know that you can go because you don't have substantive reason on why you can't accomplish that goal. Because remember, fear is not physically real until you have given it life through compound interest of thought. So what substance do you have that you can't get there? You have no substance. There's no basis on why you can't accomplish that thing that you say you want to accomplish, but you strive to give it substance. Oh, I can't make it because I don't like talking to people. You have to talk to people. You have to. But now you have to figure out, what are you going to communicate to that person? And how are you going to actually go out? You're going to have to talk to someone, take a message. And for those that I am now, I can, because now I'm going through my back into my stay on personal refit. So I can't deliver a message to deliver a message to what needs to be delivered because I don't have any substantive thing that I can't or that I can't do, because I have to understand that if I'm going to get there, I have to ensure that I belong in the room that I'm supposed to be in. information, and that I can deliver what needs because I believe in the message that I'm giving. And your performance will validate your process. Your performance will validate your process. Because if you say I want to run 5 miles, I want to shave a minute off my time before I want to, start cooking, I want to create this cookbook and blah, blah, blah. Your performance will validate it. Why? Just because you like it, that don't mean someone is going to taste it like, man, this is great. But your performance will validate your process. Yes, you've been in the kitchen. Yes, you have been applying yourself. Yes, you have put all the proper ingredients in the recipe. Yes, you have set the timer on the stove. Yes, you understood. You set the temperature on the stove. Yes, you understood. You set the timer on the stove. Yes, I know that midway, if it's supposed to be in an hour, and I know that I'm supposed to put it in there and turn it off, take it out, take the aluminum foil off and put it back inside for another 20 minutes. I am going through all of the due process that it needs to be in order for this product to have substance to feed those who like what I serve on my menu. That's process, due process, substantive process, all of that. Because you're going to do what? You're going to see that you belong there before you believe that you can get there. And once you know that you can get there, you're going to start to do the things that show that you belong there. See how that flip-flop? All right. So I have a question before I go. So how will you perform during the times of your hardship? That's your question. How are you going to perform in the times of your hardship? Because if you can't answer that question, when you get to that point, it's going to validate how much you've grown. Because remember, let's go off the root of the message, which is talking about process and progress. Progress is I don't spiral as much anymore because there was a process that I went through that showed me that when I feel this certain way, I sit down and take a break and take a breather before I go back and to approach it. That validates your progress. Or you don't holler off and start smacking everybody because you're upset anymore. Why? Because you went through a process in your life that validates the performance of no longer having that short temper that you used to have. So now it is showed proof and it's validated in your progress. I'm not as angry as I used to be. I'm not as fearful as I used to be because my progress shows that I've gone through my due process, that I know that I belong there. So I know that I believe that I'm going to get to my destination. And when I get to my destination, my due process has already been served. All right. So again, I just wanted to come back and come on and finish part 2. So I'll see you Monday on KRGN 98.5 FM. And like we say here at the Innovation Black Chamber, we are building a better tomorrow today. Y'all be blessed.